Hi everyone, and welcome to this Tour de France Week 3 preview. We're on the rest day of the Tour de France. We'll talk a little bit about what happened in the previous week as well, and then look ahead and see what we can expect in the next week. Are we going to get a Tour de France full of action, or is it a question of guys keeping an eye on the podium now and perhaps admitting the fact that Roglic is just going to win the Tour de France? Well, we get the opinion of Hendrik Lemmer at Lem on Twitter. And Hendrik, good to have you back on the show. I know last week you were in cracking form with some of your picks there. Uran, if I'm not mistaken, was one of them that you suggested at quite a big price for a podium.
Yes, Uran halfway in week 1, he was something like 10-1 for a podium. And when we did the recording, he was at 5-1 to get a podium. And I described him as someone that is a bit off the radar, despite his pink jersey, and that finishes last in a sprint. And he's always at the back and no one talks about him. And I actually said that we have to start looking at riders that we don't see in the race, because they are the people that's saving energy going to week 2 and 3. And one of them is him, and he's actually now in 3rd place on GC. So at 5-1 last week, I think that was quite a good bet. The other big bet, or the big bet I have for the Tour, is that Bernal won't be on the podium, and they haven't come with an explanation why he lost 10 or 12 minutes yesterday, but I'm still of the opinion that the fact that he came out of the Dauphiné with a back problem means that he does not get enough rest, and does not get enough sleep, and that catches up to you. So I won't be surprised if that is the explanation that's going to come out of the team, is that he's fatigued because he's spending 2 hours a day with the physio. So those are 2 of the good predictions. I hope we can do more this week.
Excellent. Well, looking forward to catching up on that. I'm just going to go and have a look at the classification quickly as it stands, and I'll share the screen here. So we've got 1 week, of course, to go. We've got Primož Roglic, he's ahead. And, of course, Pogacar's in second now, 40 seconds behind. Interesting, he's got 1 more bonus second than Roglic in the Tour de France so far. He, of course, lost time in the crosswinds. The 2 of them, certainly the bookmakers are betting at like almost a one-horse race, but Pogacar still very much in the betting as well. And then we go down to the other runners, and we see Uran there. Yes, he's in 3rd at the moment. My podium pick at the start backed him at 10-1, I think it was, for a podium. Lopez, he's still around. I also had him for a podium on yesterday's stage. I was disappointed that he couldn't quite get that. He finished 4th, and unfortunately, Richie Porte had an absolute blinder there. Yates, who said he wasn't going for classification, but he's certainly riding well. He was the only guy to really do an attack yesterday. And then we go to Richie Porte, 2 minutes, Mikel Landa, Enric Mas, and then a bit of a gap to Quintana, who lost time yesterday. But really, Enric, from Enric Mas up until your man Uran, those are really the gentlemen battling it out for the podium.
Yes, that is correct. And I actually today saw some calculations if what would the podium or the top 10 would have looked like without that disastrous stage in a crosswinds where Richie Porte lost time, and I think Mikel Landa lost time.
Yes, and Pogacar.
And Pogacar. And if you take that out, that crosswind stage, we can't take it out because it's done. But that gives us a better indication then of who performed well in the mountains. And then actually Richie Porte is 3rd on GC. And what it looked like yesterday is that Richie Porte is definitely, it looks like the 3rd most solid rider. And the reason why I'm saying solid is that in the past, someone like Lopez could attack, for instance, on a big mountain stage and get 20 or 30 seconds. What the yellow train is showing us, and what Yates tried yesterday, is that this year is not going to be a case of someone that's going to attack flamboyantly and get 20 or 30 seconds to move up from 6th place to 4th place. It is a race of attrition and a race of elimination for 3rd place. As I said last week, it's not a wide open race. It's a wide open race for 3rd place. And so we have to look at riders for 3rd place I also see there's match bets now on GC, and that is quite cool, where you can go Uran versus Landa or Port versus someone else, and that gives another angle to it, because to go for the win, it's just like Pogačar or Roglic. And why I'm saying solid is, let's say 3 days ago or something, they lost the French hopes, like Boulot Martin and one or two others. And then yesterday, they lost without anyone attacking. Not Lopez didn't attack. Yates doesn't have to attack. Port, no one. They only have to ride behind the yellow train. They lost Bernal and they lost Quintana. So you have to sort of look at which riders look solid and who is not going to lose time, instead of who's going to gain time, because no one is going to gain time. And for me, someone that looks solid is someone like Port. Port is not someone with a great track record, because he normally crashes out on the stage 9. He's now past the stage 9, so that means Port always starts the season very well at the Tour Down Under in January in Australia, and this is almost like January. The season basically started 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it seems like he prepares well at home without racing, because he normally arrives super hot at the Wollongong. The riders that are sometimes suspicious with having bad days and their fans cry for days then is Mikel Landa. Dauphiné last day or something, I think he almost stopped next to the road with cramps and lost 10 minutes. Another rider that's erratic sometimes with performance is someone like Lopez, that can just one day lose 10 minutes. So I would tend towards the more solid riders. Yates is also someone, although I don't know the difference between him and his twin brother that won Tirreno Adriatico 10 minutes ago. But one of them also can lead the Vuelta by 5 minutes, and then the next day Froome takes 10 minutes out of it. So for me, Landa is quite a solid bet, and Uran, also with the time trial coming, is a solid bet. He's one of the better time trial riders of the GC guys, so we have to start looking at that. Who can't time trial? So Lopez can't really time trial. And for me, the older guys, yeah, so that's my long summary of the question that I forgot now.
Well, let's have a look, Hendrik, at the betting. We got Rogic, this is on WSB side, 4-10. Pogačar 3-1, and then you go 40-1 and better the balance for outright. And I can understand that, because frankly, it's hard to see, short of something going horribly wrong for the top two, accidents or absolute blowouts, which seems unlikely. It is unlikely, and we'll have a look at the podium betting now as well.
No. Can you give me a price on Tom Dumoulin?
Dumoulin for the win. Right. Okay, I'm looking forward to chatting about the stages, because you obviously think he's going to get into the break. Let me have a look here.
He's 100 to 1.
Look if we got a price.
He's at 12.
200 to 1. Oh, there he is. 100 to 1 at WSB.
Yeah.
Okay, you reckon he could be Jumbo might use him to attack?
So I just read an interesting article in a Dutch news magazine, where they are saying that Roglic is quite nervous about the fact that he can't drop his Pogačar, and that Pogačar actually did beat him in the Slovenian time trial champs.
Yes.
And the gap is just too close. It's 40 seconds. And Pogačar is now saying he's going for the win. I know that's a normal thing, you're going for the win, but sometimes someone goes for the podium because he knows he can't win. He actually believes he can win. And Jumbo feels that they will need another strategy to put pressure on Pogačar. So they are asking the question, should we not put Dumoulin in one of the big breaks of the day that goes away by 5 minutes, and then force UAE, that does not really have a strong team left? I think didn't Formula crash or something? His big mountain guy?
Formula went out. Formula is out. De La Cruz has recovered from his crash, and then he's also lost, of course, Aru as well. So, he doesn't have the team.
Yeah, he doesn't have a big team in the mountain. He's got no one in the mountain. So they're saying, why on a big stage put Dumoulin not in a break, put them up the road by 6 minutes, and force Pogačar to chase 400 kilos. So we've seen stranger things in the past. We saw it in the Vuelta 2 years ago, where Chris Froome, what was he? 5 minutes. I was traveling on the day, but 5 minutes behind, and he won the thing by a big break. So something like that is not out of the question, but it is very likely. Unlikely. It's probably 100 to 1 chance. Yes. But for me, that's almost the only scenario I can think of, and I would actually love it if they do that. And they put Dumoulin in a break that's 5 minutes up the road, and they look at the other GC teams. And the only other person that in that bunch that think he can win this race is Pogačar. The other guys will just look at Pogačar. Astana will look at Pogačar and say, you chase. It's your turn to lose. So that will be interesting. So I read that just this afternoon doing my research for the show. And that could be something fun.
Well, and I think that's it, Hendrik. For me, the tactics are going to be fascinating over the next week. And I want to spend a bit of time on the various stages, because I think the green jersey race is going to be interesting. And what I noticed this last week is the green jersey race actually helped shape the yellow a little bit, in the sense that the reason some of these stages are ridden so hard is because Bora are going so hard at the start to try and isolate Bennett or knock him off the back. I mean, we had some incredible stages where many of us thought a breakaway might go and get 15 minutes, and it wasn't the case because of Sagan chasing points. And so the tactics are going to be very interesting. I mean, the one tactic, I can't see Rogic being beaten or not beaten by enough on let's call it a summit finish, where the guys all come up the final climb together. The only guy who's shown he's got the legs to take him is Pogačar, and Pogačar might pull 5 seconds here or 10 seconds there. And I've got a feeling, though, that Pogačar actually backs himself in the time trial against Rogic. And I was going to ask you that question, and I'm pleased you actually raised it, because I think Rogic could potentially be a little bit nervous. And I definitely don't see him trying to take, I don't see Jumbo-Visma sort of looking at stage victories now, trying to get Rogic more bonus seconds, because he's got everyone else he's got where they want, except Pogačar. And he doesn't want to risk Pogačar sort of out sprinting him again. But the other tactic which you often get in the last week is, and this is where it would have been very useful if the likes of a Lopez or anybody else had another teammate that was in contention, is sending teammates up in the break and trying to effectively ambush the leader. And if Pogačar was leading this, let's take the crosswinds out and Pogačar was leading by 40 seconds, he would be incredibly vulnerable to a strong team like Jumbo-Visma, who could, even if they don't have guys in contention, they could send 3 or 4 guys in the break to help Rogic with an attack later on. But if I just look at this Jumbo-Visma, just too strong. It looks almost impossible to even ambush them in this race. And it's almost the only thing that can really happen is if Rogic unexpectedly shows weakness.
Yeah, and it can happen. And that's why I'm also saying for your third place, if you're looking who's going to podium, you must look at who's solid, not who's going to gain time with the attack, because no one is going to gain time with the attack.
Yeah, they won't be allowed.
Pogačar is a wonder kid, and wonder kids like him and Remco and those guys can do anything. So, like Wednesday stage, for instance, is the Queen stage. It's the hardest stage of the tour. But we're going to talk about the stages now, so I'm jumping the gun a bit. So you can start with, if you want to, we'll discuss Wednesday stage. The Queen stage is still coming.
Yes, I'll take you through all the profiles now, but I want to just, before we get onto that, and we can always come back to the podium betting, I want to just have a look at the green jersey classifications quickly, because I think this green jersey, and I do think Bennett, I think he survived I think it was on Saturday where he was dropped, but he managed to still score a few points on the first sprint, and then he was dropped totally, but Sagan only got 4th spot. And I think he really dodged a bullet there. And it's going to be very hard for Sagan to come back at him. There's a gap of 45 points. But I want to just have a look at that, and also just have a look at the green jersey betting as we go through the stages. We've got Bennett at 4-7, Dan at 14-10, because there's some very interesting sprint positions here. And while we look at the stage profiles, we can perhaps have a look and say, right, what is it that Bora are going to try, or even Quickstep to sort of build their lead of sprints, because the reality is any sprint that Sagan and Bennett go to together, it seems like Bennett will beat him. So the only way Sagan wants to reach any sprint point is with Bennett distance. And this makes for a fascinating battle, and one that we probably missed a little bit over the years. But here's the stage 16 profile. So this is tomorrow's stage, Hendrik. I mean, it certainly looks, looking at the sprint there, 44 kilometers, it's not exactly pan flat until that point.
No, it starts with a small climb and then a little cat 4. So that's a typical thing where Bora killed the peloton the other day, where it started. Remember, from the gun, the king of the mountain was away like the first kilo on the climb, and they gave him that 2 point something at the top, and they just like rode everyone to pieces. The wind helped. I haven't looked at the wind for tomorrow, but starting with a cat 4, Bora, must just say, fantastic. There's a cat 4. Trenton is also sending messages to Bora, probably thanking them for their hard riding, because they are lifting him in third place now above my guy that's got a knee or something.
I was going to say, I'm also sending messages to Bora saying, keep it up, because I got Trentin at 11-1 for a podium.
So the sprint point after 45 or 46 kilometers is they will arrive there without Bennett. Bora said to Dave Buchmann, the GC leader, that is now an hour or something behind, said today, the rest day interviews are always very, very interesting, by the way, because people reflect on the week past and the new goals going forward. Because obviously Ineos has got new goals now, and Bora's got new goals. And Bora said their goals is a stage and a green jersey. So they are Bora this week, and Buchmann says he's a domestique now for the green jersey. So that means they are going to kill the pure sprinters in the first 45 Ks. Then there's a cat 3 climb. I think it's about 7.5 Ks long. I would love it if the strong classic riders and the strong climbers, but not GC guys, go away. So team Tish Benoit, for instance, said he's got tomorrow's stage marked, but he's got Hershey and those guys also with him. And in the interview with Team Sunweb, they actually said that the 2 stages where Bora rode hard and got rid of the sprinters are the stages that they actually then won. And they're very actually happy if it's hard and it's like the classics guys like Hershey and Tish Benoit and those guys that get to the finish. There is a cat 1 tomorrow towards the end. So for me, it looks like, so I could think that Bora will go for a green jersey up to kilometer 45, and then strong people like Schachmann, Kamna, those guys will go away with other strong riders like Tish Benoit, Thomas de Gendt, those guys, and they will contest the sprint. That's, in my opinion, what I think can happen.
And I think just looking at, I agree with you, and just looking at the GC battle. Now, I look at this and I say this is a stage, and I'm not saying he can succeed, but I think we're going to see an attempt by Pogačar to break clear at the top of the Cat 1 climb, because this is the sort of stage where if you can get a bit of a gap, look, unfortunately, there's quite a long, this is where you would need teammates in front, I suppose. There's unfortunately quite a long ride between the top of the climb and the bottom of the short 2.2 climb. But I'm going to be very interested to see if anybody in the GC, sort of tries anything here. But I suppose if Jumbo have got 4 or 5 riders, there's no chance.
No, not with Wout van Aert coming to the front and pacing from Dumoulin on his wheel. Because you must also remember the GC guys look at the next day. And
yes, and the next day's a brute,
For a reason why tomorrow could be a break is because the hardest stage of this year's tour is on Wednesday. And
here it is.
So the GC guys are saying, guys, we must save ourselves. They're telling you, domestiques also, save yourselves. You have to work tomorrow. Wednesday is the big day. Wednesday's finish is a 21-kilometer climb. Before that, they have the Col de la Madeleine or something. So Wednesday is the day where everyone will be broken. That is why I think tomorrow something can happen. Not necessarily. The other day when people was it a break or GC day when Hershey won or something, and the break was actually called with the break or something was called with 60 k's to go, and then people said, oh, so there's a GC day, and I said no, it can be the new break day. So it's a type of thing where they race so hard, and then 50 k's from the end someone goes. That's like tomorrow, and then Wednesday is the big Queen stage, the GC day. Mikel Landa is saying that on Wednesday is the day that he has to open time because he doesn't have a good time trial. So the Lopez and Landa guys that wants to finish third are saying on Wednesday is the day on the last climb where they have to open time on the ports and the Urans if they want to finish third, because they're going to lose 30 or 40 seconds in the time trial.
Yes. And if I look at Landa and I look at Lopez, one thing they do have, they don't have teammates in contention, but they've got some strong teammates. I mean, Landa's got the likes of Caruso and Lopez has also got some pretty good climbers. I mean, you're normally looking at final group. They've got 2 or 3 guys around them still when the likes of Pogacar's already on his own. And they might I'm expecting a hell of a race to the sprint because although there's no categorized climb, I see a sort of a 24 kilometers to 34. I mean, that's a fairly steep rise, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Bora try and put Bennett, who by this stage must be absolutely begging for Paris to come. I mean, it must be the most horrible feeling being under fire like that from an entire team. It really must be. And then I would potentially see a very big break going off and flooded with a few teammates. If Jumbo,
yes.
and at the very least, maybe make Jumbo work a little bit there. And then on the off chance you can get away, perhaps you've got someone to help you on that final climb.
Yeah, and how much fun it will be if Jumbo puts Dumoulin in that break with teammates of Astana and with teammates of Bahrain. And those 3 teams then go and look at Pogacar and say, you have to go and sit in front now or you lose the podium. That would be cool.
Yeah, it would be fascinating. I mean, I would imagine a guy like Rogic wouldn't like to. I mean, if it was up to him, he wouldn't take that gamble, because imagine Pogacar looks back and says, no problem, and they let Dumoulin get yellow. Then, I mean, Rogic wouldn't be happy. But
I think it's fine for Roglic if Dumoulin wins the Tour. I think he said that from the start. They just want to win the Tour for the team. So the last 4 kilometers of that stage that you're looking at now is at a 20% gradient. The last 4 kilometers, 20% gradient. That is on a 21 kilometer climb after the Col de Madeleine.
Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Gee, it's steep. That black area at the top there. Oh, I didn't realize I finished that.
Okay, so that's going to be, as we've seen, someone's going to lose 2 minutes there in the 4 kilometers going up the climb. Yeah. So that's a big one. That is the stage.
Yeah, that is.
Okay, so that is the stage. If Roglic's got a bad 5 minutes, that is the Tour then. So if I had to put money on the win now, obviously we put it on Pogacar, because 5 bad minutes there and he loses it.
Yeah, and Pogacar's, I mean, there was a lot of talk, some people on Twitter saying Pogacar was gifted the stage yesterday. Certainly not the case in my opinion. I think Rogic was sprinting head-to-head with him, and in the end, Pogacar was just that little bit stronger. And exactly why I think Rogic is rightly worried about Pogacar. But certainly they can, they, as you say, if they put someone like Dumoulin in the break, it'll put Pogacar under all sorts of pressure. Let's have a look then at stage 18. Now this is a lumpy stage, but nothing of the sort of climbing that we're going to see on Wednesday. But straight away, just a very interesting little profile here. I don't know if you could see it on your screen, but just here after after 8 kilometers, it's like a little spike. And I don't know, obviously not very long, but looks bloody steep. Yeah, that's another 20 points for Sagan or Trenton. Yeah, I think so. I think and if we add up what's coming this week, and that's not even the big day where they're going to score points, then there's actually a real chance that Sagan, with these intermediate mountain stages,
can get green back.
Yes. And if I was Sagan, I'd be working with Trentin, because Trentin's never going to take him, on the Champs-Elysees, for example. I would be calling on the services of CCC to help make it tough.
Yeah, like they did the other day. So looking at the rest of that stage, not sure if there's not going to be GC fireworks, because after the last big climb, that HC climb, there's about 30 kilometers to the finish, and that's just too long. So it doesn't help someone attack there. So they will just ride together because they stuffed from the previous day. That's what I think.
Okay,
as
so
I said, profiles can be. Profiles can tell.
I mean, many a time in the Tour de France, and it's what I love about cycling and cycling betting. I mean, you can have such highs, but you can also be made to look an absolute fool with predictions, Not as bad as the NTT predictor, mind you. I mean, nothing could be worse than that. But, I mean, every now and again, I've said this stage is nailed on for a break. A break is going to get 15 minutes. And then what happens? Bora ride like absolute crazy men from the start, and we end up getting a stage that averages like 48 kilometers an hour. So you never know. But that is, for me, part of the enjoyment of cycling. There's so many permutations, and no one knows, because things can change out on the road so much, and no one really knows what's going to happen. And that to me is what makes it so beautiful.
So by that time, the King of the Mountain competition will also be a lot more clearer, because at the moment, someone with 0 points can still win the King of the Mountains with one good stage.
Yes.
So by that time, those will be the people that go into the breaks as well, the people and their teammates that defend the King of the Mountain jersey.
Right, and we'll have a look at the King of the Mountains once we've gone through the stages, just to get your opinion if there's anyone there. But I'm guessing this is the stage where you think, once again, Bora and Trentin can put Bennett under pressure. This is stage 18.
Yes. So Sun Webb has targeted stage 19 also as a stage for someone like Hershey.
Sorry, 19, yes.
But they are saying, because it's up and down the whole time, sprint point is near the end by that, and they think that Bora and CCC will ride hard the whole day. They will ride hard to that sprint stage, that's in the second third of the stage, and then carry on to the finish. And that's rolling mules up and down the whole day. It's a day actually where Sagan can get 50 points.
It's going to be. No, sorry, carry on.
And then he's got the jersey.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting, because when I was looking for value in the green jersey betting at the start, and Sagan was obviously 5 to 10, but the reason I actually went for Trentin, and he was one of a couple of guys I was considering as a podium, was exactly these type of stages. To me, there's been so few pure flat stages, but there's a lot of stages where the strong men can score points. Now, Trentin would need a disaster for the two guys ahead of him, because he just doesn't have the speed. Like in Paris, he's going to lose a lot of points and that sort of stuff. But he'll keep plugging away. But I agree with you on Sagan. I mean, if Sagan can get up there and score 50 points here, then, as you say, that could be the green jersey wrapped up.
Yeah, the only thing I had against not going for Trentin was the fact that up to 2 days ago, the previous year, I haven't seen CCC race as a team once. It's and a lot of times you get into these kind of stages, and I'm like, are you riding for Trentin or are you riding for Greg van Avermaet? Like, who are you riding for? Because Greg van Avermaet is the leader. Like, Sagan is a leader. And Trentin, they call him a co-leader, but Greg van Avermaet is the Olympic champion, the golden helmet, he's the leader. And 2 or 3 days ago was the first time when they sent the marquee to the front to help with the chase with Bora, where I actually wanted to say, well done, CCC, you're now showing you're a team. Because it happens sometimes also with these teams that lose a sponsor, and every individual on a team needs to race for a new sponsor for next year and a contract. So this kind of stage, I don't know how it works, the team hierarchy. If Greg says, I want to go for today, if that is now how it works or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But you made a comment up front. You said Trentin can thank Bora. And this will be another stage where the nice thing for a guy like Trentin and CCC, they might put a rider or two up front, but they can actually rely on Sagan's team ripping the heart out of this race up this, certainly if that hasn't already happened, up this Cat 4 climb. They're going to go absolutely ballistic.
Yeah,
and
it's very convenient for them that Buchmann is out of GP, because they actually came with, let's say, 2 riders for Sagan and 4 for Buchmann, and now everyone is for Sagan. So he now has the guy that was 4th in last year's Tour de France as one of his domestiques. So that plays into his hands.
And this looks like, obviously, unless there was some cross winds or something, there's nothing's going to happen here from a GC perspective on this one.
Doesn't look like it, but we never know.
You never know. Right, let's go to stage 20 now. This is the time trial, and it's not your average time trial, if I can put it that way, in the sense that we've got like 30 kilometers of relatively flat terrain, and then we've got a finishing with the categorized as a Cat 1 climb here, 5.9 kilometers at 8.5%. I mean, Hendrik, that's steep.
Yeah, relatively flat. I see at 5 kilos, it's 300 meters above sea level, or what is it? The first one.
Where do you see the level? Oh, there we go. 300 yards. It's 5 kilos is like 300.
When your climb starts, it's 600.
Yeah, so that is it's a gradual climb. It looks like from about 14 to 30.
It looks like it's like this climbing the whole day, and then they go up a big climb in the last 6 kilos.
Yes. Yeah, the profile almost doesn't do it justice on this one. It looks like a gradual climb, but it's only because it's a short stage. If this was if this was compressed, if this was a 180k stage, it would show us quite a nice peak. I mean, 6 kilometers at 8.5% to end off. I mean, what you're going to get in this time trial, obviously you get the Rogics and the Podjakers who can ride the whole thing well, and then you're going to get the Lopez's and the Landers who are going to lose a lot of time in this first 30Ks, and are going to have to try and make back some of that on the climb.
Yeah, they're not going to make time back on the climb because they're not climbing better this year. So I think pacing is going to be very important.
Certainly not than the Slovenians, but you never know. I mean, Port and those guys are also prone to the odd bad day. So it's going to be interesting. What do you think is going to happen here?
Normally at the end of a tour, your time trial is dominated by your GC guys and not your time trial world champions and stuff, because the GC guys are the guys normally that recovers the most and have the most motivation to go for it. So I think it will be, so Podjakar took about 10 seconds, not as I said last week, a minute or something, 10 seconds out of Roglic in a short 15K time trial at the Slovenian champs. So he can take 20 seconds here, and he can take 20 seconds on Wednesday in the Queen stage, then we have a race.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's going to be very interesting. I mean, as long as 2 riders are close together coming into this, it's going to be very interesting. And I mean, I would suggest that a lot of people at the start were talking about the fact that everyone had to be ahead of Roglic for the time trial. And even the Slovenian time trial, I've heard people say, but Roglic didn't have the right, he chose the wrong bike and all this. The reality is that Podjakar has shown that he's every bit a match for Roglic. And I think Roglic is going to be pretty nervous if he comes in here with a 25-second lead over Podjakar. It's going to be, it'll make for an exciting stage there.
Yes, it will. Yeah. So at least we have 2 guys close to each other, not one guy 10 minutes ahead.
So I won't bother to pull up stage 21 because we all know what stage 21 is. It's a procession for the first bit, and then of course a very exciting sprint. And we might well have the green jersey race decided on that final sprint, which hasn't happened that I can recall. I don't know, Hendrik, you'll probably remember this. It was many years ago. I had the green jersey used to generally, it was after Zabel when McEwen sort of came in, but the green jersey race usually went down to Paris to the final sprint. And I backed Robbie McEwen. In those days, I can't remember. I had quite a big bet on him. I had McEwen to win the green jersey, and he had a crash at some point, so he wasn't at his best the whole tour. but he was still there. And all I needed was for McEwen to beat Baden Cook in the final sprint on the Champs-Elysees. And I've still got the photograph somewhere. Baden Cook beat McEwen. I think it was 4th and 5th place. It wasn't even for the win. And he beat him by literally a tie length. And that my 3-week bet came down to that, and I ended up losing. And I was a broken man. But it can make for a great finish to the tour.
Yes, it can. Yeah.
Right. Let's have a look then. Anything from a betting perspective now? We've spoken about. We've gone through the odds and that. Is there anything at this point that you're looking at in any of the classifications, Hendrik, where you're saying there could be some value?
I must say the team classification had quite a thing. Movistar that opened at 15 or 10 to 1, and then they lost it to the pink team, EF. And then suddenly, with Higuita crashing and the EF guys having a bad day yesterday, they are now 20 minutes or half an hour behind. So I think the second favorites now in the team classification behind Movistar is Jumbo. And I've said that
betting now.
I've said that teams like Jumbo can't win the team classification, but if they finish at the top of a 20K climb with 3 riders, then it makes that thing interesting as well. But Movistar will go all out to win the team classification. That is what they're here for.
Yeah, I mean, Movistar, they want to fight that, but it's quite interesting because obviously Movistar are going to try to put riders in the break and all that, and which Jumbo obviously have no interest in. But you make a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality with Movistar, not all of their riders are looking that great. And the thing is, with a guy like Massa, even, I don't know, how far back is Valverde? Is he miles back? But,
no, he's top 20 probably, yeah.
Yeah, so the issue is, who will be allowed to. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, the way I see this is it's probably race over for Movistar. I actually liked EF as well, and I've got a couple of match bet doubles riding, which are getting they're on rather shaky ground for me now. They were looking good, but I think I've got EF over Bora, and I've got UAE over. Who have I got them over? I'll have to have a look, but yeah, I'm a little bit worried that I could run into some late problems.
EF will beat Bora, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, that should be okay. Although, I mean, EF or even it's on the bad. But let's have a look at the. I wanted to look at the King of the Mountains. Here we go. Let's quickly have a look at the classification, the King of the Mountains classification. But as you say, the King of the Mountains winner could not even be on the leaderboard yet, quite potentially. I mean, this guy, Cosnefroy, he's held on to the King of the Mountains since the start. He hasn't scored a point in about a week. So, I mean, he's got no chance. I mean, Pogačar to be, I mean, if they race stage 15, if the GC guys fight out stage 15, then I think the King of the Mountains is going to go to a GC. Oh, there we go. Sorry, lost you, but you're back. Yeah.
Okay. Am I still there?
Yeah, you're there. Sorry, Hendrik. I think it was my connection just went there. But
okay.
What do you think on the King of the Mountains? We got Roland 4-1, Pogačar 5s, and Roglic 6.
I don't know. It's like throwing darts into a haystack or needles into a haystack. What the article of Team Sunweb also said with Tish Benoit is that they asked if Hershey is maybe targeting King of the Mountains. And they said no, Hershey is not targeting King of the Mountains. And Hershey is probably top 3 or 4 on the King of the Mountains. And the reason they say why Hershey is not going for King of the Mountains, because they say he does not climb well enough. They think the jersey will go to Roglic or Pogačar because with too many points at the summit finishes that the two of them is going to get first and second. And there's still 2 stages coming up. I don't know when, where the HC climb, summit finish or something is going to get 40 points each. Yeah. So that's why Hershey is not going. So don't put money on Hershey for King of the Mountains.
Yes.
Pierre Roland looks very keen. But, all these guys have 25 and 30 points. Those top 2, it could be very well a year where the first and second GC is going to be first and second. Because no other tour have we had the same guys finish first and second. on every mountain stage. You know, you normally have other guys also in the mix that get a Quintana gets a stage win, and a Geraint Thomas gets a stage win, and Thibaut Pinot gets a stage win. It's now the same two guys that finish first and second in every mountain stage sprint.
Yes.
So, according to Sunweb, those two are the favorites for King of the Mountains.
Yeah, I would tend to agree there. Just as a matter of interest, the climb on the time trial, it's obviously a Cat 1 climb they're going up there. I would imagine that'll just count for normal points, so it won't count for double, eh? Be interesting to find out, because
it should be on the profile of that stage.
Would it be on the profile? Let's have a look. So it's a Cat 1, but
then it will get points for
the last climb of the stage. Hey,
it could be. So what they sometimes do is they have that Cat 1 thing. They have 100 meters before the finish, but I don't see it there.
Yes, it's very interesting. I must find out about that.
Yeah, but do you know how they then?
They normally time it from a point at the bottom. They normally time it from the start of the climb to the top. But that's interesting because that's a Cat 1. What's that? 10 points for Cat 1, eh? But if it's double, it's 20.
No, the only doubles are on the HC climbs. There's two of them.
Only the HC to the double. Okay. Now that's interesting. But even the King of the Mountains could also then be decided on stage 20. That would be quite exciting as well.
Yeah, not on stage 21, luckily. Yeah.
I mean, if you get a let's just say a Pierre Roland, if he's in contention for the King of the Mountains, he will literally go as slowly as he can without getting in danger of the time limit and race up this mountain as fast as he can, because you'll have no interest in the overall. You know, it's going to be fascinating.
I can see someone like Alaphilippe going for that King of the Mountain.
Yes. I mean, like I see he's 33-1 for King of the Mountains.
So,
but as you said,
just some other things that I picked up in race day interviews, and that comes back to the fact that people get tired, and people with injuries that doesn't get rest get tired, and that's something that one must always consider when placing a bet. So Quintana says for 4 nights he didn't sleep well, and he says his whole body is full of. He's had 3 small crashes. So we see Quintana crash and he gets up. Remember, he's got road rash and stuff. That night he doesn't sleep well. So Quintana didn't sleep. I'm sure the thing with Bernal is going to be that he didn't get enough rest because he's got a back problem. So you don't go to bed at 9 at night. You go to bed at 11:30 because you have a 2-hour treatment. It's not enough recovery. Thibaut Pinot says it feels to him like he's doing 2 stages every day because he's so fatigued. So don't think Thibaut Pinot is going to go for. Yes, he's going to try and go for a stage, but he can't go for a stage. He can't beat someone that is fresh and that hasn't crashed. So go and make a little line through people that's riding for GC favorites, domestiques. Go and make a line through people that's riding on stages where Sagan can win. His teammate will not win on that day. Like Buchmann is not going to go for the stage when Sagan can maybe get 50 points because that's a Bora's goal. The other interesting thing is that changed from yesterday to today. And I see you said something on Twitter, Kwiatkowski, the Ineos guys, what are they going to do now? Bernal, he can go for a stage in a few days' time. Who's going to chase Bernal if he goes on the Queen stage in a break and he's 10 minutes behind? Who's going to chase Kwiatkowski tomorrow if he goes for a stage or on stage 18 or 19 or something? So look at what changed. Who doesn't have a GC leader anymore? Like we said about Bora last week. Who's going for green? What they're doing. And then consider that in your bets.
Like a Warren Barguil, for example. Warren probably wouldn't have been allowed maybe to go in the break if Quintana was right in the heat of contention. But now they're going to say to him, have a crack at that Queen stage. I mean, I could see him being in the break.
I think he was in a break somewhere this week.
He was. No, he did make a break, and he has been He has been told that he had a bit of freedom. But I still think if Quintana at this point was right in contention, then they wouldn't. They'd probably if he was in the top 3 or something, they'd have Bargill on duty. So, I agree with you. There's plenty of opportunity. I must say, one that I found on Sunday in my stage preview was Sepp Kuss over Tom Dumoulin at 22-10 match bet. And I was very, just in my mind, I thought the way I've been riding, I thought Kuss would probably be the last one. But Dumoulin went so well that we almost never got to the last one. He almost got over it was only in the last kilometer that Dumoulin actually sat up for the first time.
Well, you saw that I put that 100-1 on Kuss with like 2 kilos to go in play.
Yes, because it was his birthday as well.
It was his birthday. So that's, I think, one of the factors why Roglic lost the sprint. Because they actually, you could see they wanted to give it to Kuss.
Yes.
And I was on WhatsApp with one of the ATT World Tour riders at that live, like 2 of us chatting during the stage. He's at home. And we were like, he says, yes, they're going to try and give it to Kuss. And then I said, but how do you give it to Kuss if there's another fast guy there? And when Kuss attacked with about 300 or 400 meters to go, Roglic actually came in behind Kuss to give like a sort of a dead wheel to Pogačar. But then Port came over the top on the right-hand side, and then Roglic came. And it was a very good bet. So there's 2 things you always have to check when it's someone's birthday and when someone's wife or girlfriend or baby is at the finish line. So that's 2 things you always check pre-stage. They say that time trial is through the hometown of Thibaut Pinot. Unfortunately, and I read a preview today about the time trial. It was written before the race started, the 3 weeks. And they said maybe Thibaut Pinot, by the time trial, has enough of a gap in the yellow jersey that, he can be in a yellow jersey in his hometown, but it won't be so. But it was his birthday, so it was a good bet from your side.
Yeah, and it actually reminded me, and just a reminder to people that we do have our rugby betting show live on Thursdays at 9. And a few weeks ago, there was a playoff match. Or no, there wasn't a playoff match. It was a critical match in the New Zealand Super Rugby tournament. And all the talk was Richie Mo'unga going to play or not, because his wife was having a baby. And the thinking there was, well, if she went into labor, then he would pull out the game and he would be at the hospital. But if not, then he would play. And the guys actually on our side actually followed her on Twitter. So they were busy waiting for the announcement from the wife to say, like, I'm heading into hospital or whatever. And then they would bet accordingly. And I mean, it's the same thing, like you say, with the cycling. There's so many different things at play. And I still say, for me, this is the greatest sport in the world when it comes to watching and betting. I'm a big rugby fan. I'll choose Tour de France over any other sporting event of the year.
So it seems like all Richie's had babies the last week or 2, because Richie fought to go in the last week. And he actually said before the tour that he's not, because he's going to miss the birth of the baby, he's not going to race the tour if it's for 10th place or something. He's not there to make up numbers. So he's there, and he says it's his last tour as a leader. I think the way Ineos is going now, he could be a leader next year as well, because he's going to Ineos with Yates. So that's interesting.
I didn't realize
so
he was
Richie,
going to.
Yes. So Richie Port for me, interesting bet for GC. Yates, I don't know what he's doing. Last week he still said maybe I must lose time to go for a stage. So I don't know when he wants to lose time, like on stage 20 or something.
You know what I think happened with Yates? I think Yates has had a look and he saw Bernal was looking weak and he said, hey, I'm going to ride for GC so Ineos can see that I'm capable of, I'm there. Because he suddenly, also I thought he was only going to hunt stages, but I was very impressed with him. I mean, I knew his attack wouldn't work yesterday. You kind of knew that he was going off. And in fact, I had a match bet in play. I had Mas over Yates yesterday. And fortunately, it arrived. But I actually expected Yates to either give time away yesterday or crack a bit. And he did neither. And I was just lucky that Mas had a good ride as well. So, interesting. And just in terms of another long-term play of mine where both of them are going better than I expected, I've got Port over Mas in a match bet. And Port was behind him after the crosswind. He's moved ahead. But Mas is looking not bad himself. So, one bad day for either of those guys will decide the match bet.
Yeah, Mas has got a good teammate with him. Someone like a father figure. Maybe it is his father. We don't know. Valverde likes fast women. So
excellent.
So yeah,
You never
so
know.
looking good. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Hendrik, just a reminder that people can find you on Twitter at Hendrik Lemmer. I know you're very active during the race as well, posting in play, and always, you're one of there are probably 4 or 5 guys on Twitter that I always make a point of following very closely in the Tour de France, and people can find you there. And otherwise, I think we should be in for a great week of cycling. But certainly the stages, I think, there's only one summit finish, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be plenty of action.
Yeah, there's lots of. It's going to be a hard week. You don't need summit finishes to have a hard week, and let's all pray for wind, so we have some action.
That'll be great. That was Hendrik at Hendrik Lemmer on Twitter. Thanks for joining us for this Tour de France Week 3 preview. Remember to subscribe to our channel, and I do daily previews. So what have I got? Only 7 of them left now. But looking forward to those. Started to hit a bit of betting form after a bit of a shaky start. So let's hope we can come up with a few winners in the next few weeks. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you Tuesday morning for the Stage 15 preview.
Thanks, Brent.
16.
Cheers.